YouTube, hello, welcome back to Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. Today we're going to be going over Vincent, and this one's going to be a bit of a shorter video because Vincent doesn't have quite as much variety in his kit compared to some of the other characters that we've already gone over. But Vincent can still be very, very strong and is obviously a very beloved character in the Final Fantasy VII community. Figured it'd be a good time to go over this video because he just had a featured banner release and we can talk about his available builds. We can also talk about which builds the new weapon, the Galleon Roar, actually work with. So, well, the Galleon, I think it's Galleon Roar. Did I say that right? I'm pretty sure I said that right. I think it's Galleon Roar. Regardless, we can talk about which one's the new featured weapon we can actually go with, and we can start with the Lightning build. So Vincent's Lightning build is a magic lightning build based around his weapon, the Crow Familiar. This is a 940 base magic lightning damage weapon that, as long as he's got a buff available, it increases by 20%, increasing that damage to 1128%. Our abilities leave a little bit to be desired. Magic attack only at 31 and the lightning potency going up to 42 is fine. It's good, not great. The magic attack is easily supplementable, which is why it doesn't really hurt Vincent's build in the long run, as I'll show you once we get into the sub weapons. And the lightning potency is good enough to get us up to the level 8 break, which is where I like to get all of our elemental potency. Offhand weapon is the Sawed-Off GS. This is a great place for the Galleon Roar. I believe that's what it's called. I'm gonna look really quick because I'm gonna keep saying it wrong. And if I don't double check and make sure, it is the Galleon Roar. Okay, great. I was right. So offhand weapon is the Sawed-Off GS. You can put the Galleon Roar here. The Galleon Roar also would give you the rest of the magic attack that you required, as well as giving you that magic ability potency. But you need to get that all the way up to OB10, and even then, the 31 points that you'd be getting that with that, and the 31 points for the magic attack, that would max you out. So if you wanted to max out your magic attack that way, you could do that. I still think for the lightning build specifically, you're probably wanting the Sawed-Off GS because it gives more magic ability potency, as you'll see once we get into the complete R abilities here. But this is a really strong offhand weapon for Vincent because of the R abilities. It also gives him a way to self-buff, meaning that he will always have a way to get himself that extra 20% damage on his Crow Familiar, which is awesome. Obviously, ultimate weapon slot is just going to be ultimate weapon slot. The limit break is going to be the Judgment Bolt from Ramuh. Lightning potency materials, so these are the triangle, right? Yeah, triangle sigil breaking lightning materials to give himself that lightning potency. Sub weapons include the Electro Cannon. This actually helps us get near to where the maximum magic attack would be, but we needed a little bit more help. We also threw on the SSR 1976 because that gives us 56 points of lightning potency, pushing us all the way up to that level 8 break. But I decided to throw on the CC Alloy Greatsword, which gave me 62 magic attack, which was way more than I needed to max out my magic attack. But this extra lightning potency actually got us up to the level 9 break right on the nose, while also keeping us at a level 6 point for the boost magic ability potency. This is a very strong build. This is a lot of lightning damage. It's 110% lightning damage and another 70% for magic ability potency, while still getting the 20% ability potency from his ultimate weapon. This has a lot of damage potential. Obviously, this is very reliant on having debuffs and buffs for your team, which thankfully, Vincent's new weapon, the Galleon Roar, actually does for you. It's got a magic defense down, it's got an enfeeble, it's got a magic attack all allies. That's something that he can come in and immediately be that buffer for your team. If you are using him as the buffer for your team, and then after he's done buffing and debuffing, he then switches to DPS, I would give him the offhand stuff for lightning instead of making the main lightning DPS. So that way your main lightning DPS hero can go out and do all of the lightning damage while Vincent focuses on keeping all the buffs and debuffs on. All in all though, really strong lightning damage, really strong lightning damage. I think it's still the strongest in the game at this point. And especially in the magic lightning side. We haven't seen anything better in the magic lightning side, but the Vincent lightning build is still one of the best. And we got this weapon for free for logging in for anniversary. So this is a great character to use for the magic Leviathan fights. If you're struggling with the magic Leviathan fights, this actually is a great two-piece combo here because you can increase your own magic defense with the Sawed-Off GS, which is great. Next up, we got his fire build. His fire build is built around the Holiday Garm, which is a physical fire weapon that does 940% physical fire damage, and when a debuff is granted to the target, it deals 20% more damage, getting it up to 1128, just like the Crow Familiar. However, this one, there's only been one instance in the entire game where we've seen that an enemy has a resistance to fire or elemental debuffs or imperils, and it was during the last battle ranking event that it was part of one of the modifiers that we could put on the event. Other than that, we have not seen any enemy immune to imperil in this game. So with that in mind, you can almost always have this debuff on, meaning that you're getting the maximum amount of DPS from this from minute 1, which is great. This is still one of the best physical fire weapons in the game. There's only one that even compares to it, and it was a limited weapon during the Dragon Quest event last month. So if you didn't get the sword for Zac, that physical fire sword for Zac, this is still a great option for physical fire damage, and it still does a ton of damage. Offhand weapon for Vincent's physical builds, you're gonna notice is a little awkward. Currently, I'm using an event weapon that we got during one of the events over the last few months. That just gives HP and boosts physical ability potency. If you don't have this available, the next easiest thing is probably something like the TO3 Model N. This will give you a little bit of physical ability potency and the rest of the physical attack that you're needing. But the truth of it is that's not a terribly good offhand weapon. It's going to give you way more attack than you need, like way more physical attack than you need. And the physical ability potency is not high. It only goes up to 28 points at OB10. So this is not a great option in terms of just like, you know, what I want to use for my offhand on a physical build. And that's kind of a weakness for Vincent right now. He doesn't really have a good offhand weapon for physical. He's got a couple of options for magic offhand weapons, which is nice. But as we'll talk about in a couple seconds here, he really only has 2 magic builds that are not limited. So like, it's really difficult to justify like going all in on the featured banner, much like I mentioned in the banner review video when we were talking about Vincent and the state of his character at the moment. But this is an option. It's at least something. That's really all he has available for offhand weapons. I mean, at this point, you're probably even looking at things like Quicksilver, which gives 46 attack and 56 limit break potency. This is at least a good option if you have this at an eye overboost. And because it's mixed damage, and Vincent's limit breaks are also very good, which we'll touch on when we get to the non-elemental build. This is actually a really good weapon to invest in because it'll work with both of your magic and non-elemental, or magic and physical builds. But other than that, not a ton of options there. Obviously, we're working with fire potency materias and the Ifrit summon. Sub weapons is going to be the same as most of the fire builds you've seen. We're using Crystal Sword for the 52 points of fire potency. That would have gotten us up to the level 8 break. But because I already had a physical ability potency weapon on, I had an open slot here to be able to get my rest of my physical attack and my fire potency up using a fire potency physical attack weapon. This can be Cloud Sky Splitter, Sephiroth's Radiant Edge, Yuffie's Moogle Float, Yuffie's Boomerang also has it. Kate Sith's Yellow Megaphone, or I'm sorry, Gold Megaphone has physical attack and fire potency as well. Any of those at a higher overboost level will not only get you to that level 9 break for fire potency, but it'll finish off your physical attack, while throwing on the enemy launcher gets your physical ability potency up to the level 6 break and your boost attack up to the level 5 break. So overall, this has got a lot of DPS in it as well. Much like with the lightning build, gonna need a lot of support on the sides, but we've got a lot of support in fire at this point in the game. So it's not difficult to get yourself that support in the fire builds at this point in the game, which is nice. So Vincent's physical fire build, very, very good, very, very strong. And this is where his power lies. These two builds in his featured pool are easily the 2 best builds in the kit, right? So you get Holiday Garb and Curl Familiar at higher overboost levels, which we all did, thanks to the login weapons that we got for free from just logging in for Anniversary. You've got them both at OB6. You can definitely build around Vincent being your primary fire and lightning damage dealer. Next up is a bit of an awkward one. It's the physical wind build. So his short barrel is a very good sub weapon for wind. You'll have seen me use this in some of the other physical wind builds that we've done, like in the Yuffie and the Tifa video, because this weapon has physical attack 31 and boost wind potency 52. And it's not as useful of a weapon as the other option for physical attack and wind potency 52, which is it's Sephiroth's Shinra military sword. This is a great weapon when your HP is full, right? When your HP is full, this does 1200% physical wind damage, which keeps it right in line with basically every single weapon that we anticipate in the game, meaning that this weapon's pretty strong, right? It's not a bad weapon at all. It's very, very good when you're at max HP. The problem is that if you're at any higher level content, staying at max HP is pretty difficult in this game. Now, granted, that is changing now with the amount of bonus stats we're getting from Memoria, with abilities like HP gain. We are able to stay at those higher HP levels easier today than we had previously. So this is a much more usable weapon today than it would have been 3 weeks ago. However, there are still weapons that are much stronger than this. I usually wouldn't consider Vincent as a primary wind damage dealer, even though this can get up to 1200%. It's still pretty solid. If you wanted to build around this, you probably could. And if you did, Much like the physical weapon or the physical build last time, I said the same thing for this one. It's not a lot of great options here. You can also use Quicksilver, like I mentioned before, for the boost attack and limit break potency. This is still an option. You know, other than that, that's pretty much all he's working with his offhand at this point for physical builds. Sub weapons on this one. Oh, sorry. We're going to use wind potency materials and obviously Zantetsuken for Odin for the summon. For sub weapons, this is actually where motor drive, Tifa's motor drive, comes in great, because we need a lot more physical attack and we don't need any more wind potency, or at least not a lot of wind potency. So when I throw on the motor drive, not only does that get us to the level 7 break for physical attack, it also got us directly to the level 8 break for wind potency, which is awesome. So that lets us get to that massive breakpoint that we like to get to, then allowed us then to go all in on physical ability potency by giving him not only the enemy launcher, which is a physical or attack and physical ability potency, but it also let us use Ultimatic to give us even more boost attack to increase his damage even further. Obviously, like I said, this is very much tied to his HP stat. So this is better for stages that have like single target attacks, right? So if you're working against a wind enemy that you can provoke away from Vincent to try to make it so that he can't take that damage, so he can stay at high HP marks, that's a great way to use this. But it's a little bit more niche-y as a result. It's still very, very viable. You can still use it, but it's a bit more niche-y, right? Certain enemies like there's a behemoth that is weak to wind, that this weapon you would think would be pretty good on, but all of its attacks are AoE, right? So it makes it very difficult then to keep Vincent at that higher higher HP level to allow him to deal the biggest amount of damage with this. So still good. It's just a bit more niche because you want it to be in stages where you can provoke enemies away from Vincent or keep his HP high. And the final featured build is his non-elemental build. This build is strictly run around Hugin Immunin. Hugin Immunin is a magic attack and magic ability potency non-elemental weapon that does 1300% non-elemental damage with a 10% crit rate. Obviously, you want to supplement this with brands that give C ability increases, because C ability increases on big percentages like 1300% increase the damage by quite a bit. It's already given us all of the magic attack that we need and a decent amount of the magic ability potency, but not a lot. So we are going to need to supplement this. So I threw around this sawed-off GS to give us a boost attack, because remember, we don't need boost magic attack at this point, and boost magic ability potency. You could also use the new Galleon Roar weapon with this, because that lowers magic defense and puts an Enfeeble on, obviously, which increases your team's total DPS, which is still very, very good. For this one, this is the first time in one of these videos where I am not using a summon. We are using the Chaos Rampage limit break, which is his third limit break in his stream. At level 10, it does 7,500% damage, which is about as much as level 10 Mega Flare, I think. I haven't gotten Mega Flare to level 10 yet, so I don't know exactly where it gets up to. It's at 6212. So yeah, so the Mega Flare is still gonna be better than this, right? But like the reason why I went with this one specifically is because the cool part about Vincent is Vincent's weapon all have an innate ability to increase his limit gauge, right? This does not work with summons. It works with limits, specifically limits, right? So Quicksilver is great in this build, by the way, if you don't want to have the sawed-off GS in the offhand. But because all of his attacks increase his limit gauge, giving him a limit break allows him to get to this limit break faster, because 5% of this charge speed is put in every single time he uses an attack. Whether that's his offhand weapon, main hand weapon, doesn't matter. They all have limit break increase, which is awesome. At level 10, this does 7,500% damage to a single target, while also increasing his physical and magic attack by 4 tiers, which increases his damage dealing by a ton. And at level 10, as long as he's less than 90% HP, he gets a 30-second haste with this cast as well. 90% is a very, very easy number to dip below. Most of the time, getting hit by one AoE attack or even one of the limit break attacks that the enemy uses is more than enough to get him underneath the 90% threshold, and getting this haste is very, very easy now. Before, it used to be a 30% HP threshold, so you had to wait until Vincent was basically like on death's door to be able to get this haste. At level 10 now, this is a much easier way to get haste applied to Vincent, and that then allows him to continue outputting massive amounts of DPS with a +4 to his magic attack and a very strong non-elemental attack. Materias here are just straight up magic attack materias. Sub-weapons are going to be specifically a magic attack all allies and magic ability potency weapon. Obviously, like I mentioned in the Yuffie video, if you don't have this magic attack all allies and magic ability potency weapon available, you can use a weapon like the Crystal Megaphone, which does the same exact thing. It still gives you the amount of physical or the amount of magic ability potency that you're looking for. So you're not going to drop below this level 7 mark. And this would get you to the level 7 break for boost attack, which gives you enough of damage. Like I said before, the magic ability potency or the magic attack all allies is slightly better, but the Crystal Megaphone still, it works fine. This is a pretty unique build where I actually went in on crit potency. So I gave him the Type 99 Longsword, which gives boost attack and crit potency of 39. And then I also gave him the Iron Blade, which gives physical defense, which we don't really care about, but it keeps him healthy, which is helpful. And then the boost crit potency again. This actually got him to a level 5 break evenly with boost crit potency and increases his critical strike damage by 80%. So now when you crit, so let's say the crit was a ×2, right? So instead of doing 100,000 damage, you're doing 200,000 damage. This increases that damage by another 80%. So instead of 100% boost, it's 180% boost. And that is a massive improvement, right? So you're looking at 280,000 damage instead of 200,000 damage. That's a huge increase in total DPS. And it definitely matters when we're talking about like just overall DPS in general, right? So yeah, that's the build for the non-elemental build. Like I said, crit potency only works on non-elemental builds, so this is something that very rarely comes in handy. And obviously we're rocking with 1 defensive R ability, but that's not the end of the world, right? Giving Vincent a little bit more defense is not the end of the world. He doesn't need to drop to massively low HP to get this massive, or to get the best effect from your Chaos Rampage. So work around this. It definitely is very, very strong for the stages that you need non-elemental damage. Those happen very rarely in this game at this point, but for the stages that you need it, it's still very strong. And that covers all of his featured builds. There's only 4 in the game, and these 2 are pretty niche, meaning the non-elemental and the wind builds are pretty niche on when you can actually utilize these. Obviously, with his new weapon, you can use that as a support weapon as well, the Galleon Roar. You can go in and use that as a support weapon and use something else on top of that to try to increase his limit break potency, like the Quicksilver, and you could use that as a support build. I don't know how viable that is, but it is certainly not bad, right? It's certainly not bad. I think there are better ways to inflict magic defense down and magic attack up, like even an OB0 Crimson Staff is really good for that, and then you can just put Enfeeble on a number of different characters. But Vincent can still do it. Again, I think that's a little niche though, and it's probably not your primary objective when using Vincent. You're probably looking at lightning and fire. Going into his 2 limited builds, we're going to start with his limited earth. This is the first limit break weapon that Vincent received, which was the White Dog. This is a very good magic earth weapon. It is only it's only moderately worse than, or slightly worse rather, than the recently released Yuffie weapon. If you have this at a decent overboost, this is one that you could probably build around still and not have to worry about pulling for Yuffie's outfit and weapon. But it is still very strong. It goes up to 1128% as long as the debuff is applied, which, like we said with the fire weapon, not very many things have been immune to imperil at this point. But yeah, so this still remains a very, very strong magic earth weapon, still something you can build around. Vincent also has a featured weapon in his kit called the Kugelblitz. That is a great support weapon or offhand weapon with his earth build. This one decreases the magic defense of all enemies while also increasing his own earth damage, which is obviously very, very good. It also gives him boost magic attack, which is something that he needs considering his main hand weapon is magic attack all allies. This one having 62 magic attack is really good at OB10. This also goes up too high for both the magic defense decrease and the earth damage increase. So even on the stages where, you know, you don't have, say you don't have White Dog, Kugelblitz can be used as a like earth support weapon because Vincent gets that +3 to its earth potency. He's got a magic attack boost slot where he can put an earth potency materia, or an earth materia rather, in that slot and still deal decent damage, right? Not great damage, but decent damage. But it makes him a very good support because he's got that AoE magic defense down. Still very, very good. Still very good offhand weapon for Vincent. Obviously all earth potency materia is here and Titan for the summon. Sub weapons are pretty cut and dry. This one's going to be an easy one. You just put on the Razor Ring because that's going to give you the rest of the magic attack that you need with the Kugelblitz. I've obviously needed to supplement this because Kugelblitz is currently only at OB4, so it's not at OB10 yet. I'm putting on the Sawed-Off GS to give us that 44 points of magic ability potency, 52 when it's up at level 120. And then obviously I'm using the Electro Cannon to give us the rest of the magic attack and also get our boost magic ability potency up to this level 6 break, which once these are both OB10, that actually gets you up to the level 7 break, and then you'll have enough magic attack and earth potency to get you up. I think this will go up to level 9 when Kugelblitz is at OB10. So yeah, still really strong build here. This is obviously very, very good. It's nice that he has a featured weapon that supports this damage weapon. and it makes it very easy then to build around the White Dog. And considering the White Dog is in the limit break metal pool, you'll be able to get this slowly over time. And if you pull one of these weapons, it makes it almost immediately useful, which is nice because Kugelblitz amplifies the usefulness of White Dog pretty quickly. And it's nice that you have a nice offhand weapon to help build around it. So that's really good. And last but certainly not least is his physical ice build. I think this is probably one of his strongest builds. As you can see, I only have an OB1 version of this weapon. And even then, the game thinks my power is up in the 500,000 range, which is the highest that we've seen so far. The Gun of the Worthy at OB10 does an 1120 physical ice damage attack, which is solid. It also applies an ailment called Ice Weakness for 150 seconds. The downside to this is that it's only able to be used for the first use. So once you've used it on that enemy, or once you've used it, period, that is the only time that you can apply it. So that means you cannot use it over on like individual enemies. To my knowledge, I've not actually tried it in AoE fights, but that's usually what conditioned first use means, is that you can use it on one enemy and one enemy only, and it lasts at OB10 for 2.5 minutes. The good news of this is that anything that's timed that you would want to apply an ice weakness to, 2.5 minutes is the total time anyways, at the most, like something like a guild battle, right? But even in the stages where you don't need this ice weakness, so say it's just an ice weak stage, 11-20% physical ice damage is still very, very good. The R abilities on this one is very good as well. It's still a very good ice weapon and still does a lot for your physical ice teams. But much like all of the other physical builds that we discussed, he runs into the issue where he does not have a great offhand weapon for physical here. This is another one where the TO3 model N is a great offhand weapon just because it gives that physical attack and we actually need it for this build. However, for ice potency, we have multiple weapons in ice that have boost 62 physical attack, meaning that we really don't need that physical attack in the offhand again. So anything that you can give, whether it's Quicksilver or that event weapon that gives physical ability potency, either one of those are great as an offhand weapon, or at least serviceable as an offhand weapon. And then for the rest of the sub weapons, I just gave him all ice potency weapons just to give him the level 8 break and as much damage as I possibly could. Obviously, we would need a little bit less here if I had the Gun of the Worthy at OB10, because this goes up to a full 42 points, which would give us, I think right now, what are we at right now? We're at 15. So yeah, that's an additional 27 points. So an additional 27 points means that this would all be almost at 100 at that point, which is obviously overkill, right? So at that point, I would probably move one of those sub weapons to physical ability potency instead. Probably just enemy launcher, like normal. Give him a little bit of extra boost attack, give a little bit of that physical ability potency, and get us up to that level 6 break. But yeah, so that's all 6 of Vincent's builds. That's really all he has available to him at this point. He does need a lot of help in his kit. I think that the next featured weapon that he gets probably needs to be an offhand physical weapon, because his physical builds sorely need it. Like I said, Quicksilver is still a decent option, and the rest of his weapons they're usually relegated to being sub weapons. So like something like the Cathpaloob is a great ice sub weapon. Even short barrel you usually want to use as a sub weapon, right? So a lot of his weapons are usually used as sub weapons. Even Sawed Off GS is like one of our main sub weapons for magic builds. So if you're using Vincent and you're using that weapon, it's great for him in particular because it opens up some flexibility with his sub weapons, and it makes those builds very, very good. But like it definitely leaves some room for growth, right? There's definitely some improvements that could be made to Vincent's kit, whether they're through featured or limited banners. I don't think it really matters either way, but I think I would prefer to see some more featured help. I think this character is good, and in the stages that you have, the 4 builds that he has that are good, he's great, right? Like his lightning, fire, ice, and earth, all 4 of those builds are fantastic, right? Every single one of those is fantastic. In those stages where you need those specific damage types and elements, you will be just fine, right? He's great in those spots. However, he does not have the flexibility that someone like a Tifa or a Yuffie has, where they're starting to get a lot of mixed damage effects, or even Cloud at this point, who's starting to get a lot of mixed damage effects. He actually aligns more with the original Sephiroth, where original Sephiroth is kind of really only good in 2 builds right now, and then he has like a niche like sigil breaking build as well, if you wanted to like build around that as an option. But like that's really all he's good in his featured kit right now, and one of those weapons is limited, right? And so from that perspective, it makes it very difficult to recommend Vincent as an attacker role for a new player. Not to say that he's not good. He is very, very good in those 4 elements, and like I said, even for the physical or for the featured side of it, his lightning and fire damage is very, very good, and we got both of these weapons at OB6. So you don't have to sleep on Vincent. You don't have to bury him underneath the rest of the characters and the rest of the roster, but outside of those 2 builds, it's very difficult to use Vincent, and that's where things get a little awkward. And that pretty much wraps up Vincent. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section down below. If you like this video, make sure you like the video, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate y'all watching. I hope you're enjoying the character review series so far. Like I said, I'm going to continue to do these videos until like a repeat gets done, and then I'll end up doing a different character instead. But every time they get a new banner, so like if Matt gets a banner next week, we'll do a character video for Matt, and so on and so forth until we go through them all. Obviously, with the new weapons that release after these character guides are up, the new character guides, I usually go over how to build the new weapon whenever I do the banner review video, so you can just go back and look at whatever banner review video I have up, because I'll always do all of the banner reviews when they release. So if a new say fire weapon, or a new you know, what's the one he doesn't have access to right now? Ice, nope. Earth, nope. Wind, nope. Fire, nope. Lightning, nope. Water. Let's say Vincent gets a water weapon, right? A really good water weapon. I'm gonna say how I would build his physical water build in that video, right? So you can go back and watch those videos wherever they are. I'm sure they're here in the playlist on YouTube if you're interested, or I can always leave it down in the description below if you have any questions. Just feel free to ask. But I appreciate y'all watching. Hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day, and as always, we'll see you again in the next one. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.